Okay, 1 2 1 2 people, it is time to review The Last of Us Part 2. Now, there's going to be no spoilers in this review, and I want to make this as short as possible because there's a lot to cover in the game itself. For people that are on the fence or haven't purchased the game or haven't got the game yet, hopefully this review helps you in your buying decision of purchasing the game. So this is a really good game. It is a really good game, but it is lacking in crucial areas that would have made it a great game. For me, I like to play games on a hard difficulty setting because hard mode in these days in gaming is the equivalent to normal now. It gives you enough of a balance of challenge and enough of a balance of skill required to get past and progress within a game, regardless of what the game is. Survival games are especially platform for difficulty settings to play a big part in your play session. I played Last of Us Part 2 on hard difficulty setting and it felt like it was normal or easy. It wasn't challenging whatsoever. And I thought about why this setting wasn't that hard. Survivor is just the same as well, just the same as hard mode. And I came to the conclusion that the character designs are quite flawed because they're just too powerful. So let me break that down. So let's talk about the gameplay. The gameplay is fine. It's perfectly fine. You can salvage ammo, health packs, pills to upgrade your character's abilities, and also bolts and screws to upgrade the weapons. Very, very straightforward and simple. There wasn't a shortage of ammunition or of just things to upgrade your character. They were quite spread throughout the game. You will very few times come up against opponents when you're short of ammo. I didn't really feel like I was short of ammo whatsoever. I got to a point where I was like, you know what, I could just be all guns blazing in certain encounters, and then I realized I could do it throughout all encounters because I will eventually get ammunition anyway. But the reasons why, from a gameplay perspective, the characters were flawed is you have a melee attack that is an instant kill. That's number one. You have a sprint that is unlimited. There's nothing stopping you from sprinting forever. Two, you have a X-ray vision so that you can see enemies through walls. Obviously the brick and bottle is still very OP because you can stun enemies that aren't looking in your direction and then get the melee attack on them. Also, you can upgrade the melee weapons themselves to make them even more powerful. With all of that, along with the fact that you can upgrade your weapons to make the damage more, which is all the things that I did, it made the character way too powerful. So encounters were not challenging. It just wasn't challenging because after a couple of tries, you're going to just get through it. Never once throughout the gameplay session, which I played live on my Twitch. So follow me on Twitch if you're not already. The link will be in the description. Throughout my play session, never once did I feel like I'm struggling. Never once was I struggling throughout any encounters. I think what would have been a good idea within game development would have been to add a stamina bar or energy bar. That way you have to preserve the amount of melee you can do. It requires a certain amount of your bar to do it. And also another thing, what makes your character OP is the fact that you can dodge. You can dodge anything in the game. So again, with the bar, a stamina bar, this is just a suggestion, you can only dodge a certain amount of times, like 3 times, because that will drain the stamina bar, for example. The stamina bar could also affect your aim down sight. that if you don't have a lot of stamina, or you haven't waited for your stamina to get up to the top, stamina or energy, whatever it is, your aim down sight is all shaky and stuff. Something like that would have added a level of depth to the character and playing the character throughout the game. It would have added a level of conservation within the survival game. For example, Resident Evil 3 do it quite well. For instance, you can dodge attacks in Resident Evil 3, but you have to really time them. In The Last of Us Part 2, you can't do that. In The Last of Us Part 2, it doesn't take the timing window is very large, so you will dodge like it's Matrix. There'll probably be clips in this video, as you'll see. But other than that, the exploration was really, really good. The collectibles in the game was amazing. There's these cards that you can collect, and they are very, very interesting. You can tell the design team took a lot of time into those, and it was really interesting to collecting those things. Really dope. And yeah, the visuals and the cinematics were excellent. It's top class, as you would expect from a AAA title, but it was very, very, very impressive. However, I felt like there was way too much cinematics. I would not be surprised if you could watch the whole cinematic cutscenes, all the cutscenes added together on a YouTube somewhere, and it'll probably be, I don't know, a couple hours to 3 hours long, something like that. So with that being said, if you add the amount of cinematics and the amount of slow paced dialogue sequences, the picking up notes from people that have died or passing on messages, because for whatever the reason, when someone dies in this game, they just so happen to have had a pen and paper to write a note before they died. There was just wheels everywhere, right? Which was kind of strange. But through the cinematics, reading the dialogues, the manuscripts, and also the slow paced sequences where you're walking alongside your partner talking about whatever it is, if you add all those together, it is a lot of hours, which means as I was playing through the game, it felt like there wasn't enough actual gameplay happening. There wasn't enough of that. I think I probably completed the game in about 35 hours. It's approximately around that time. And I didn't feel like there was a lot of actual gameplay in terms of gaming. There was a lot of cinematics and walking dialogue sequences, which were quite slow paced. And I think that was how the game was developed, to extend the duration of the playthrough of the game. So there's that. And the boss encounters were just so, they were interesting, but they were kind of trash. They weren't challenging. When you, in any game, and this is traditionally in gaming, if you go up against a boss encounter, it's meant to be a challenge. None of them in this game were a challenge. None. I can't think of a single one that actually had me thinking, how do I defeat this? And that might be due to the fact that they made the characters too OP, as I mentioned already. When you're playing a game, you're playing a game for the sense of challenge, fun, and excitement. Whether you're a casual or whether you're a hardcore or veteran gamer. And if you don't have that sense of challenge, then it kind of takes away from your play session of whatever game you're playing. Another thing that I wasn't too happy with the game was the achievements at the end of the game. Very, very mediocre. Very mediocre. When you complete a game, you want to feel like you have accomplished something and you've achieved something that can offer you more within the game itself. So I'm not going to spoil what it is that you gain at the end, but you could probably guess. But it wasn't very good. I'll use Resident Evil as an example of just a typical reward that you get at the end of completing an entire play session of a game. You get points that you've accumulated throughout your play session that you can spend on unique weapons that you can't get within the game of Resident Evil, for example. Same thing with Red Dead Redemption. When you complete the whole Red Dead Redemption, you get to play as a character that you normally wouldn't be able to play as throughout the whole of your play session. In Last of Us Part 2, you don't get neither of those types of things. You get something that is just not good enough, in my opinion. So the replay value, to me, just isn't there. And I'm actually going to trade in my copy for Ghost of Tsushima, because that looks like it's going to be an excellent game. But not to make this review too long, this is a really, really, really good game, and I would actually give it an 8 out of 10, just barely. This is the quintessential 8 out of 10 game. DLC could make this an even better game. There is rumors that they potentially could add a multiplayer to the game. Who knows? But I thought the story was enticing, interesting. There was a lot of depth to the story, and there was good character development throughout the game of individual characters that you encounter, come across, and play as. Because a lot of the basis of the story and this particular game is all based upon people's judgment, personal feelings towards certain things, and their moral compass. And you'll see a lot of instances that reflect a lot of the characters' moral compass and where it stems from and where it will lead them to be. I was pretty impressed with the development of the characters and the visuals of aspects of the game itself. It was really, really well done. I give the game an 8 out of 10. If you haven't got the game, it comes down to what you want from a game. If you just happen to be a fan of survival games, then I would definitely suggest you playing this game, because you'll get a good amount of time and PlayStation out of it. If you like games that offer a good level of replay ability to it, I would suggest that you wait until the game reduces in price. If you're a fan of Last of Us Part 1, I'll definitely advise you to play Last of Us Part 2, because it is a nice continuation of the first game. And that's about it. That is about it. The game is an 8 out of 10. The next game that I will be reviewing will be Ghost of Tsushima. Like, comment, and share your opinions and thoughts on the game if you've played Last of Us Part 2. And follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/CaviarZaddy. Twitch is in the description, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Later.